Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode of Snowflake Corner. This is episode 46, where we cover stories from outside the UK. Date and time of this is the 22nd of October 2024 at 7 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/REGANELITE and on twitch.tv/REGANELITE1. Be sure to hit the like button on YouTube, and if you're interested and you're curious about news and politics on Twitch, do hit the follow button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Steam Banker is lurking in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well, and anybody else who might be lurking in either of the chats, hope you guys are all doing well. I've got 6 stories for you guys. One not really, a bit of an odd one here, but just before I do, I'm going to share today's daily quote, guys, because I do them across all my social medias. I haven't been doing them on YouTube, so I thought I'd give them to you here. Today's one, 22nd of October, is this. Some changes look negative on the surface, but you will soon realize that space is being created in your life for something new to emerge. That is today's quote. Take what you will of that one, guys. Take what you will of that one. Let's dive straight into the first story, guys. There's quite a lot of interesting stories to go through here. First one here is from CNN. The headline is "The West Wants Putin Isolated." A major summit he's hosting, he shows that he's far from alone, and this is absolutely true. This summit that he's hosting here, a lot of world leaders have attended this, and it shows that while it may seem like that Western media and Western sanctions and a lot of things that are trying to make things more difficult for Russia, shows that he's not alone in the world. It really doesn't. And this really does highlight this, trying to cut Russia off from the rest of the world because of what they're doing in Ukraine. I really do think Russia would be in a very different position if it wasn't for him. If there was someone else, a leader, who wasn't making this decision to invade Ukraine. But basically, the West is basically saying it's not okay to invade another country. Putin's response is, well, it's not okay to expand NATO without my permission. Allegedly. Mad Monk, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, let's read a bit more into this as I share my thoughts. So, nearly 3 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine saw Moscow condemned by countries globally, leader Vladimir Putin staging a summit with more than a dozen world leaders in a pointed signal from the autocrat that's far from being alone. An emerging coalition of countries stand behind him. The 3-day BRICS summit, which started on Tuesday in the southwestern Russian city of Kazan, is the first meeting of groups of major emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, since it expanded earlier this year to include Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Iran. So some interesting nations there. India, China, obviously you expect. South Africa, interesting one there as well. Egypt, obviously they're having a lot of economic problems as well, so that as well. United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Iran. Some countries pretty much from different parts of the world. That really does speak volumes, to the influence that Russia does have. Putin met with China's Xi Jinping at the summit on Tuesday and claimed afterwards that their country partnership was a model of how relations between states should be built. Well, that would be the case if you didn't think it was quite okay to invade other countries without their consent. Just going to say that. Simon says 55, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Other leaders expected to attend, including India's Narendra Modi, Iran's Musku Prishkin. I'm going to botch names, so I do apologise. South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as those outside the club, like Turkish President Erdogan, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, was expected to join but cancelled his trip after suffering an injury at home. It's set to be the largest international gathering the Russian president has hosted since the start of the war in February 2022. The gathering of the BRICS and other countries this week spotlight a growing convergence of nations who hope to see a shift in the global balance of power, and in the case of some, like Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran, directly counter the United States-led West. This latter message that Putin and close partners and the most powerful BRICS country leader, Xi, will project in the coming days. It's the West that stands isolated in the world with its sanctions and alliances, while a global majority of countries support their bid to challenge American global leadership. Reg, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. There's absolutely no question that America has the most influence in the planet, and that's totally understandable. And don't get me wrong, like this is still like to get nations from all different parts of the world. And Russia does have a huge amount of influence in the world. There's no question about that. No one's questioning that. But America has some very powerful allies and very huge amounts of influence. And when you look at some of the nations that are together with America when it comes to NATO, the United Nations, and the summits that come together, it's not really a fair comparison as of right now. But that could change. More countries could join the BRICS, potentially. In remarks to reports on Friday, Putin hailed the growing economic and potential clout of the BRICS countries as an undeniable fact, and said that if BRICS and interested countries work together, there will be a sustainable element of a new world order, though he denied the group was an anti-Western alliance. Okay, so he's not stating they're an anti-Western alliance. Well, it does seem a little bit like that, doesn't it? Putin's messaging this week will be all the more poignant as the meeting comes just days ahead of the US elections, where potential victory for former President Donald Trump could see the US shift its stance or support in Ukraine and strain Washington ties with its traditional allies more broadly. This BRICS summit is really a gift for Putin, said Alex Golubov, director of the Kargin Russia Eurasia Center in Berlin. The message will be, how can you talk about Russia's global isolation when these leaders are coming to Kazan? Russia wants to portray the BRICS as a spearhead, a new organization that leads us all as a global community to more than just order, Gabriel has said. But despite Russia's sweeping rhetoric, the leaders meeting in Kazan have a wide range of viewpoints and interests. Reality of the BRICS that observers say there limits their ability to send a unified message, especially the kind Putin may desire. Is Viktor Orban joining them? You would think that Viktor Orban will be joining them at some point. No? Maybe he joins later, maybe. The Russian host gathering poses a sharp contrast to last year's BRICS summit in Johannesburg, where Putin participated from the other side of a video screen, unable to attend in person due to arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes over Ukraine. Not alleged. Come on, like we've seen what they're doing is wrong. This year, the Russian president is at the helm of the first summit since the organization nearly doubled in size, and its gathering is playing out before a very different global landscape. While BRICS is primarily geared towards economic collaboration, its meeting last year took place in the shadows of the war in Ukraine. Now, even as the war rages on, the expanding conflicts in the Middle East, where Israel is fighting Iran's proxies, is also likely to dominate the leaders' conversations. Putin last week confirmed that Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas would join the event. The Russian leader and his officials will likely use the conflict and the anger across the global south towards the US and its support for Israel to press its argument for a new world order without the US at the helm, observers say. This right here, getting the Palestinian leader to join the event, this will get some more. This will get sympathy, people with sympathy, especially if at this summit, obviously they bang on about how Israel are taking advantage of other nations and whatnot, and the atrocities that they're causing. You know, speaking about that, and if a lot of those nations are in support of that, obviously, it does gain more sympathy from people who are living in the Western nations. It can cause influence, that's for sure. There. China and Russia both called for a ceasefire in the spiraling conflict and criticised Israel's actions, while the US has endorsed Israel's right to retaliate against militant groups, Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. They do have the right to retaliate, but they don't have the right to literally separate families, which has been reported. They don't have the right to literally, like, kill innocent people, which they have done, like rape some of the innocents in prisons. Like, they don't have the right to destroy these people's lives. Like, they think it's okay to destroy 90% of Gaza. They think that's justified. Taking out every single school and hospital in Gaza as well. Is that you know, while people are still in those hospitals, is that justified as well? Yeah, America does not making themselves look good by sticking with Israel against all odds, really, to be fair. Many attending the summit see the conflict in the Middle East as a prime example of why this particular grouping of countries should have more influence, says Jonathan Fulton, an Abu Dhabi-based senator, non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council. However, he said countries are using it mostly as a rhetorical point to criticise things that they don't like, rather than showing interest in leading its resolutions. Observers will be watching whether China and Brazil will use the gathering as a platform to play up their joint 6-point peace proposal on the war in Ukraine, as they did at last month's meeting at the United Nations General Assembly. Then Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky slammed the effort, saying such plans would help Moscow, while warning Beijing and Brasilia, "You will not boost your power at Ukraine's expense." Zelensky's own challenges present his victory plan to end the war and implementing US elections mean China now has a tremendous opportunity to bear down the drum of its own format on Ukraine without sparring too much leverage, according to Gabriel in Berlin. The gathering in Kaizen also gives Putin ample opportunity for one-to-one FaceTime with his fellow BRIC leaders and other friendly dignitaries in attendance. The recent incursion of BRICS of Iran, which CNN had reported, has provided Russia with hundreds of drones as well as short-range ballistic missiles, a transfer Iran denies, brings a close partner even further into Moscow's fold. China has also been accused by the US and its allies of powering Russia's war effort through its provision of dual-use goods like machine tools and microelectronics, a role Beijing also denies as it defends its normal trade with Russia and neutrality on the war. Leaders over the next few days are expected to discuss how to advance the ongoing efforts to settle payments outside the US dollar denomination system using BRICS currencies and banking networks, a system that could have economic benefits but also helps members countries like Russia circumvent Western sanctions. The country is also likely to look for ways to boost economic, technological and financial cooperation across a range of areas from energy to sharing satellite data. At the time, however, they'll be grappling with the divisions and different agendas between countries within the group, which observers say will limit how much the BRICS can achieve. That's nothing new for the group, which first held its first summit in Brazil, Russia, India and China in 2009 as a coverage of key emerging markets before expanding the following year to include South Africa in 2015. BRICS launched its new development bank, seen as an alternative or supplement to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Loosely united by shared interest in reforming the international system to ensure their voices were better represented, BRICS from its start has incorporated countries with deep differences in political and economic systems as well as other frictions. India and China, for example, have long simmering border conflict, but make up two key pillars of the club. Their divisions have become even more prominent in recent years as US-China have become increasingly fraught, while India and US have become close partners. Today, even as BRICS has again expanded, the Kremlin has said more than 30 additional countries are interested in joining or cooperating with it. Deepening geopolitical fault lines further complicating BRICS' identity and direction, observers say. China and Russia have essentially tried to shift the group from the sense of BRICS being emerging economics to potentially some sort of expression of Angus with regards to Western dominance, said Madjing Kamarowski, who heads the Indo-Pacific studies at the Tuskegee Institution Research in the Center in the Indian city of Balgore. And new or inspiring members may not be wanting to choose between the vision and the West. Instead, they are looking to grow their economies and engage non-ideologically and pragmatically, he said. There's going to be more coming out of this summit as time goes on. But yeah, this was in 2019 then there. President Putin, Xi Jinping, Botswana at the time, obviously, and he got and he's gone now. But yeah, more nations appear to be joining this brig over the last decade or more now since it's been formed. I mean, like, you know, he's forming this alternative, and you know, you need to, if you're not getting everyone on board, which appears to be the case, then Putin's gonna have these alternatives. Now, is this going to make an impact on the global market, global economies? I do think it can have an impact, but at the moment, it's I kind of agree that at the moment there isn't really more, like, they haven't made it very, very clear what their ultimate goal really is for it. I suppose just working trade and cooperation agreements and then share their grievances about things that America's dominance has on certain things. Is that going to be it? That's kind of what it interprets as, really. Well, I don't see any more than that, if I'm honest. Let me just see what you guys are saying in the chat. As a dictator committing mass genocide, even. Yeah, it does appear to be. Quiet, oddly quiet, says Stephen Banker. Yeah, there's an interesting group, that's for sure. Let's move on, guys, because I want to make use of the... I want to make sure we cover as much as we can before Max goes live. So this one is from Retros, guys. With polls tight, the US election campaigns target overseas voters. So there was a long piece that the Association Press had. I was thinking of covering it, but it was just too long, so I'm not going to be able to cover that. But so I'll go with this one instead. We are just literally less than 2 weeks now. 2 weeks now from election day in the US. Without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest election of the year. Pretty much the entire planet pretty much is at stake here. If regardless of, you know, there's going to be a shift in global patterns, regardless of whatever the outcome is, whether it's going to be Kamala Harris, whether it's going to be Donald Trump, there's going to be a shift. The market's going to shift, the global economies are going to shift, nations' relationships are going to shift. Lots of things can potentially happen. Are going to happen once this election is done and dusted. Now, we know one thing for sure is that they will call it rigged. Trump's team, Trump voters will call it if they don't win this. However, if they do win it, obviously it means very bad times for the rest of the world. It will be pretty much almost goodbye to Ukraine if Trump gets in, because they know they're not going to get any more weapons and supplies or help from them anymore. Europe knows that it's got to start less relying on America as well. So that's also going to be questioned. And Project 2025 will be initiated in that. The polls are showing that the polls are shifting towards Trump apparently recently, despite everything that's going on. But obviously there's a lot of undecided people in America, which has been highlighted in many, many places already, that people who just don't cast their vote, who don't decide on what they're going to vote for until the day. So there's still going to be a lot of Americans. But a lot of the key swing states apparently are going in Trump's favor at the moment. I saw a report that Kamala Harris looks like she might be making a trip to Texas, which is a very deep red state. I'm not sure why she's going there, but she's going to try and appeal there to voters as well, which is quite interesting as well. But this is obviously about the target overseas voters here, and a bit on that here. Good morning, Steve McMahon. Hope you're doing well. So let's read into this, you guys. So Bob Valler, a Paris resident who has mostly lived outside the US for the past 13 years, has already voted in his home state of Michigan for the November 5th election. I know that whatever happens in America affects the rest of the world. I know this because I've lived in the rest of the world, said Valler, the LGBTQ plus caucus heir for Democrats abroad. Valler's vote and the ballots of other Americans overseas may be crucial in tight races of battleground states like his. Michigan is one of the election's most competitive states, with the latest poll showing Democrat candidate Kamala Harris holding a slight edge over Republican rival Donald Trump. The Democratic National Committee estimate that 1.6 million US voters abroad are eligible to vote in one of 7 battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. That will be likely to determine the outcome of the election. The group is believed to favor Democrats among people who used to vote from abroad, a non-partisan voter support tool linked to the DNC. 3/4 of overseas voters in the 2020 election said they were Democrats. So, for the first time in the presidential election, the DNC has given Democrats abroad funding, around $300,000, to help register Americans overseas to vote and ramp up its mail-in voting operations and other effects. It has taken out ads on social media urging Americans abroad to send in their ballots. So this explains why I've been getting ads over the past month popping up on YouTube, basically saying, "Oh, you need to vote," when I'm not an American. That explains that. The election will be won on the margins. Every single vote counts, said DNC spokesperson Maddie Muddy in a statement. We're going to win this election by engaging every eligible voter, no matter where they live. Republican presidential candidate Trump is also after American expats. Earlier this month, he said he would end the double taxation of overseas Americans. The former president campaign has not offered further details on how the policy would work. but it could end a burdensome requirement that mandates US citizens to file income taxes in the United States regardless of where they live. While Americans abroad do not have to pay US tax on their first $126,500 in earned income and are eligible for some foreign tax credits, it can be a bureaucratic headache expats for many other countries that don't face. For many Americans abroad, including myself, the only consistent interaction we have with the US government is through the IRA every April, where we have to file and pay our taxes. There's Zenon Kapran, a Singapore-based fintech consultant registered to vote in the US. When asked if Trump proposal was a factor he would consider, if a candidate seriously addresses tax reforms for expenditures, it could influence my decision, he added. Solomon Yui, a chief executive of Republicans overseas, said Republicans have fought to improve taxation policies for Americans abroad for years, adding it could totally impact the expats' vote. I already see Democrats abroad panicking, he said. Okay. Despite Trump's tax pledge, he has also said without evidence that Democrats are pursuing the overseas vote to cheat. The Republican National Committee, which is largely integrated with the Trump campaign, has targeted overseas voters in legal challenges, notably Pennsylvania. If the lawsuit is successful, it would decrease the number of Americans abroad who could vote. The move to try and block some overseas voters prompted 6 U.S. Democrats in the House of Representatives to write a letter to the Defense Secretary asking if the lawsuit would affect the constitutional right of service members, and referred to House Republican allegations as an attempt to sow discord and misinformation. 2 other lawsuits in Michigan and North Carolina filed by Republican officials that aimed to block some Americans living overseas from voting in those states were thrown out by judges on Monday. The challenges with attracting overseas voters, a group whose size is estimated by major political parties and outside experts to be somewhat between 4.4 million and 9 million. And that's only a small fraction of the believed to vote. And unlike citizens of many other countries, US voters cannot line up on election day at their embassies. Instead, they must submit ballots to the states where they are registered, usually by mail. According to the US Federal Voting Assistance Program, most eligible overseas voters tend not to vote, with fewer than 8% estimated to have been sent in ballots in the 2020 presidential election, compared with just an overall turnout of 67%. The overseas voter participation in 2022 midterm elections was just 3.4%. In a neighborhood in Central Palace, volunteers set up a stand every Monday and Tuesday afternoon outside a cafe to try and up their percentage by helping Americans navigate the bureaucracy of state and local election laws. Over the course of 2 hours, they coax people through the process of registering to vote or fill out backup ballots in case things went awry with their original one. The problem is that the instructions are not understandable, said one of the volunteers, Tanya, a retired lawyer. Chlorine Lacorne, a resident of the southeastern Parisine suburbs, came to the stand last week because she had not received her ballot from New York. When she registered, she believed she had been removed from the voters' roll and rolled out the paperwork to re-register. I'm worried about the future of our children and all these populist movements, which include Donald Trump. They worry me, Lacorne said. Yeah, I don't blame them for being concerned about that. It is, but obviously that's just one group of people in one area there in Paris specifically, and there's Americans dotted all over the world. Some in America, some here in Britain, some in all parts of the different world. Whether or not they will take more heed to the votes is obviously a question. Is the overseas vote going to make the massive difference? I really do believe that every single vote is going to matter in this in this presidential election. I know the system is a rigged system, guys. You don't need to tell me that. I know it's a rigged system, but they're really, the stakes are so high in this election. They are so high. The repercussions, not just for America but for the rest of the world, really do matter on this. And I am very much concerned about the outcome of this election. I'm very much concerned about the possibility of things kicking off if Trump doesn't win, if the votes are not there for him. I think it's going to be very problematic, that is for sure, if things don't go Trump's way. But if it does go Trump's way, going to be very dark times coming ahead, that is for sure. Chat seems stuck. No, it might be just chat's not talking much. Simon says 55. Might be just it. That might be just it. Chat's pretty quiet. It's not many people here tonight at the moment, which is understandable. So the next one I've got here is from Euronews. Interesting one here. So Hungary, Slovakia and Serbia are plotting to win for Europe's anti... Have I put this on the right one? No, I don't think I put this on the right one. Hold on, sorry. 1 second. There we go. Hungary, Slovakia and Serbia plot a win for Europe's anti-migration camp. So what's this about? So obviously, I'm sure many of you guys know in Europe there's been this... Obviously, you're not just here in the UK, but obviously in Europe, in America, about immigration, migration, how it's apparently the be-all and end-all, and if we don't deal with it, it's the only thing that's going to stop all our problems, going to stop all the things going wrong. So these nations' solutions are to set up anti-migration camps in third world countries or countries of origin of where people are coming from. This is what their solution is, to send them back to those countries, apparently. Apparently, they'll think that will fix the problem. That's what the proposals are coming from these nations here. Rather than actually, you know, securing peace in some of these countries, perhaps maybe helping stop the civil wars, or perhaps maybe doing something about the climate change. You know, some realistic ideas. But instead, they want to set up camps at third world countries or countries of origin to send them back to. Don't think they fully thought this through. So camps in third countries, fences and strict border controls have become the new normal in some countries on the continent, claiming to deliver citizens more security. Robert Fico, the populist Slovak Prime Minister, his Hungarian counterpart Viktor Orbán, and Serbian President Alexander Vučić believe that unlike their European colleagues, they have a formula for dealing with migration. Speaking at their meeting in the Slovak town of Komorov on Tuesday, Slovak PM gave those gathering a glimpse into the future. Brasilia, Budapest, Belgrade style. We're talking about building camps in migrant countries of origin or in safe third countries where migrants will be intercepted, Figo said. We're talking about building a better return policy because of the 100% of illegal migrants who arrive in Europe. 80% stay and only 20% manage to get back. We managed to get back. And there's no such thing as illegal migration. No such thing. There is no such thing as illegal migration in any way, shape or form, guys. It's not. The three leaders indirectly praised the model of the hotspot outsourcing Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni launched in Albania. It's funny that they praised that stat only to find that the Italian court has deemed it unlawful. Yeah, apparently. You didn't hear that? Yeah, an Italian court had deemed this scheme unlawful. Saying that they have to be processed in Italy and they can't be processed in Albania. The Italian government didn't really think about this through, did they? There's a rebellion in Brussels against migration. Brussels' migration pact is part of the problem, not the solution, Hungary's Orbán posted on X. The only way to solve the European migration crisis is by protecting our borders and stopping migration. This is what we are here for. In 2023, a decision was made to return 430,000 illegal immigrants from EU countries, and just 84,000 have been returned so far, concluded the Hungarian Prime Minister. In the names of the anti-migration trilateral cooperation, Figo and Orbán, both EU member heads of state, offer their full support to Vučić for Serbia's ascension to the bloc. We achieved results by working together. It was not easy, but this year there are 80% fewer migrants than last year. We will continue to work together, and I believe that the results will be very good, said Vučić. At the moment, there are only 477 migrants in the reception centre in the Republic of Serbia. We will, of course, continue to do our work in the interest of Europe and our friends and our brothers in Hungary and Slovakia. At the same time, Vučić said that Serbia will never host migrant camps for other countries like Albania. While Slovakia and Hungary as EU member states could benefit from Serbia in stopping migrants at the border, what are the advantages for Serbia? Oliver Ropke, the president of the European Economic and Social Committee, believes that having advances in the bloc will not bring major perks. We cannot have a fast track without fulfilling all the criteria. If some countries are fostering enlargements more strongly than others, then I have to say that I will insist that we will not be superficial process. It must be merit-based, that process that involves a civil society, Robert explained. We were always strong advocates for common migration policy to emphasize legal pathway migration. I think this is important, and we should not only focus on how we deport so-called irregular migrants as soon as possible, but it must be really a balanced approach, he concluded. The new trilateral format seems to be growing while the Visegrad group suffer divergent views on the Ukrainian crisis. Hungary, Slovakia and Serbia share the same soft approach to Russia, whereas Poland and the Czech Republic have pitched their tents against the anti-Kremlin pro-transatlantic camp. The BBB, I think that's a lot better, BBB. Format is an opportunity forum to exchange views among leaders politically sympathetic to each other, yet the BBB will never replace the Visegrad group because its funds are still important, Slovak author and journalist Andrzej had told Euronews. For Serbia, it's good to have two advocates, Hungary and Slovakia, within the EU when it comes to engagement talks, he concluded. I will say, obviously, like this little like I'm looking at this as like a little Russian group within the EU, Slovakia and Hungary, and Serbia sitting on the outside there, just trying to plot and try to undermine things within as much as they possibly can. This anti-migration camp, like, we know the solutions to migration. If you don't, like I've said this before, if you generally want to deal with the issue, you've got to help the countries that they come from. But people don't want to deal with the countries of origin. Rather, they just throw monies at countries like Tunisia and let them try to deal with it. Countries like Turkey, and try to let them deal with it. You know, try to stop them getting towards the Mediterranean before they even try to cross over in the sea into these countries, rather than actually deal with the problem, which is very frustrating. Good to see you, Joe. Hope you're doing well. No worries, buddy. It's all fine. It's just, it's not going to solve these issues. It's not going to solve migration. All they're doing is trying to move the problem away from Europe. That's all they're trying to do. You're not going to actually you're not actually thinking of solutions to solve the problem. Like I say, we can get rid of the migrants. We're going to put them in camps in third countries and back in their countries of origin, without actually thinking, why are they leaving? Why are they fleeing? What can we do to stop them fleeing? Like, that is the question people should be asking, not just trying to get them out of Europe, get them out of their countries. You know, help the nations that they come from. It's just so frustrating, you guys. It really, really is. Before I go carry on, just see what you guys are saying. This game will not end well. 300 million is now stuck in Brussels and Hungary won't see assent. Yeah, I'd like to think they would listen to me, Simon says 55. Got a good old-fashioned Scottish weather, pissing down and blowing a gale day and night, says Stephen Banker. Well, apparently there was a cyclone like out in the ocean. That's apparently, and we're feeling a bit of the brunt of it. Apparently, probably you guys are feeling, and obviously you guys are feeling it a bit more up in Scotland. Obviously, apparently. So yeah. So guys, I'm gonna have a little funny video to keep things going. We've still got about just under an hour or so before I've got a couple more stories for you guys. This one I have not played this Foil in Arms funny video for you guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one is called The Irish Guy on a Russian Quiz Show. I hope you guys enjoy this one and get a bit of a laugh out of this one to break the ice a little bit here.
Поздравляю тебя, Sergey. Next we have Seamus McKenna from Ireland. Question 1. What system of government is Russia run by?
Dictatorship.
Democracy. What is the longest game of chess ever recorded without a win?
The Cold War.
Nikolic versus Arsovich.
Oh, yeah.
In what Russian game of chance do you risk your life to win?
Politics.
Russian roulette.
Russian roulette. Yeah.
What dangerous predator is making a comeback in Russia?
Oh, the leopard.
Correct.
The leopard, yeah.
In
Leopard 2 tank is way better. Much better tank.
In 2022, what aggressive disease led to the tragic deaths of tens of thousands of Russians?
Small man syndrome.
COVID-19.
COVID-19, yeah.
Name one cultural thing Russia is famous for.
Crime and Punishment.
Yes, excellent book.
Book?
What happens if you commit a crime in Russia?
You go to war.
Trial by jury. Which former Russian leader was twice attempted to be removed by impeachment?
Donald Trump?
Boris Yeltsin. However, I will accept. And finally, who won the most gold medals for boxing in the 2024 Olympics?
That hasn't happened yet.
I'm afraid the answer is Russia.
This is 2024 though.
Please leave. Поздравляю тебя, Sergey. How will you spend your winning money?
On an airline ticket on the first available flight out of Russia. Doomda.
That was a bit of an odd one there. An Irish guy on a Russian quiz show. Yeah, I haven't seen that one before, but I thought that was a bit of a funny one there to share with you guys anyway. So before I just go to the next article, just a reminder, guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. Be greatly appreciated on YouTube. If you haven't followed on Twitch, please consider following on there. Greatly appreciated. Share them across social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't subscribed already to the channel, to the YouTube channel, please consider subscribing because it really does help. If you guys want to go one step further and financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p. Gets you access to custom emojis. And it also gets you access to membership posts whenever I post them, community tab, and it gets you early access to additional content as well. And whenever you comment on any of my videos as a member, you always get a response from me. Yes, and emojis of these guys here, the gang here behind me: Ollie the octopus, the orb, Cash Dummy the cookie monster, and Pingu the communist penguin hiding behind there, and the lava lamp as well. So you get all of them as emojis if you are a member whenever we do live streams or premiere videos as well. So you get all that stuff for just 99p. I know, very, very generous, aren't I? Yeah, 99p doesn't sound a lot, but it really does make a massive difference. So please consider doing so. Of course, you're welcome to do any super chats, buy me a coffee, or join me on Patreon as well. You get this, there's content you get on Patreon as well if you want to join that as well. Unlike other people's Patreons where you join it and you don't get any content. No, I give my Patreon's content on there. So moving on, enough with the shimming. This one is from Africa News from Tunisia. It's a short one, but I wanted to talk a bit about this anyway. So Khalid Saïed takes the oath for his second presidential term. So there's I'm a bit in two ways about it. So because I do want to talk a bit about this, but I'm just going to read this for you guys before I give my thoughts. So Tunisian President Khalid Saïed had been sworn in for a second term following a months-long crackdown and a series of arrests against his political opponents. A few weeks after being re-elected with a 90.7% of the vote, this 66-year-old former law professor called in his investigative speech for a cultural revolution to fight unemployment, terrorism and corruption. The goal was to build a country where everyone can live with dignity, Saïed said in the speech to members of the Tunisian parliament. Mr. Saïed re-election on October the 7th. Bit of an awkward day there. Came after a turbulent first time in office in which he suspended the country's parliament, rewrote the post-Arab Spring constitution, and jailed dozens of his critics in politics, the media, business, and civil society. He justified some crackdowns as necessary to combat corruption and enemies of the state. Using population to appeal to Tunisians' disillusion with the direction of his predecessor, took the country after nationwide protests that led to the ousting of El Zal Alim Ben Ali in 2011. He vowed to tackle the thieves and traders in the pay of foreigners and blamed counter-revolutionary forces for obstructing efforts to support Tunisia's struggling economy through his first term. The task was not easy, the dangers were great, he said. The weapons of the old regime were like vipers that moved everywhere. You could hear them hissing, even if you couldn't see them. Although Mr. Saïed has proclaimed his commitment to respecting freedom, many journalists were prevented from covering his swearing-in ceremony on Monday, leading to a rebuttal from National Union of Tunisian Journalists, which expressed a strong condemnation of the ongoing blackout policy and restrictions imposed on journalists of work in a press release issued on Monday. So he's basically cracked down and suppressed basically anyone who questions him, and basically called them corruption or terrorist or whatever the term you go. He is a dictator. That is essentially it. He is a dictator. Now, what's the worst thing about this is not only is he staying on for a second term of all this, but this actually favours the European Union. Why does this favour the European Union? Well, the European Union, the EU, have a deal with Tunisia And that deal involves obviously them rounding up and stopping migrants crossing from Tunisia into the Mediterranean and towards the Italian islands, and basically getting them to round up and grab any kind of boats that try to cross over in the Mediterranean and bring them back to their country, basically. And they are paid a huge amount of money from the European Union to do this as well. Now, the fear was a little bit within the EU, was that if they had a change in government, a change in leader, that this policy could get scrapped or something could change within the policy as well. Despite the fact that the EU do not like this man, they do not like the way the country is being run. They are prepared to turn the blind eye to what's happening in Tunisia, just to reduce migration in the EU because of the everlasting political damage that migration is having within the European Union. So that is the kind of the situation with regards to Tunisia and its relationship with the EU. And obviously, just reading on this alone, you can tell that there is a major issue when it comes to, so-called democracy. There is no democracy in Tunisia. This is authoritarianism in a nutshell. Khalid Saad basically slammed and took down anyone and everyone that tried to oppose him. Any medias that were not in favour of him and his party, whatnot, you could just tell they were barred from even being a part of this ceremony. It is pretty much full-blown dictatorship, you could pretty much call it. Even though he's trying to claim it's not, that's definitely the case here with Tunisia, unfortunately. Context, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. So, yeah, I did want to cover this because I do think it's it's really bad. I think I did cover a short about last week or so about riots taking place. There were riots and protests taking place in Tunisia as well, but yeah, nothing really came of them, unfortunately. So yeah, he is sworn in his second presidential term. Like 90.7% of the vote. Like, come on, like, there's something wrong there, guys. There's something wrong there. So this next one I've got for you guys, let me make sure this is on the right bit. Yes, it does. So I really wanted to talk about this. I was waiting to see if there was an even unfortunately, we still don't have a definitive answer on this, and I'm sure you guys have heard about what's been happening in Moldova. So this one is from the BBC. Moldova says yes to pro-EU constitutional changes by a tiny margin. Says here at the bottom, the people in Moldova have backed the Eastern European country's proposed changes to its constitution and commitment to joining the EU by the thinnest of margins in the referendum. Now, there are still some things they need to look at, but I think there are quite a few videos and stories on this when this was happening. So let me be very, very clear about this. There's a great deal of Russian corruption taking place in this referendum vote. A lot of rigging. A lot of people were offered a lot of money as well to vote no to a pro-EU constitutional change as well. Moldova is not in a very good state. It's a very poor country. And obviously, when somebody approaches them and offers them a lot of money to vote something different, chances are people are going to take that money, aren't they? There was a report from Sky News not too long ago where they showed stacks and stacks and stacks of papers and whatnot for the No campaign, of all this stuff in Moldovan and Russian language. Even the president of Moldova has acknowledged that there has been election interference in this, despite the fact the president is pro-EU. Now, Russia has denied any involvement, as they would do, but considering where it is geography-wise, this does not surprise me that Russia have had a great deal of influence. And obviously, Moldova, for where it is to join the EU, would be a significant thing. Now, the European Union has been looking at this country. They've been looking at this referendum very, very closely. Again, as of right now, I think they're still kind of waiting to see more in this. But the feeling from the EU and the feeling from Moldova is that the majority of people want to join the EU. Despite the polling showing it's very, very tight, they believe the vast majority of it was down to political political interference, political influence, rather than a case of the Moldovan people are not 100% sure about wanting to join the EU or not. That is what the belief is with this referendum. Now, I don't know how true that is because I don't know a lot about Moldova personally. This is based on what news that I've read and what I've seen on this as well. But I do think that has been playing a part. Let's not forget the trans Nalvalda affair too. So there's context there as well. Yep, that too as well. Thank you for reminding me of that as well. Jal says, I saw some news of packs of cash from Russia being caught on the border to bribe voters. Yeah, there's been a lot of that. Yeah, there's been a lot of that here. There's been the anti-corruption team in Moldova have had their hands full trying to crack down and stop as much of that as possible all the way on the run up to this, but there was still a lot of it out there. And like I said, it's not a very healthy country. It's a very poor country. So for a lot of people, when they are worse off, if their lives are not that great, if they have an opportunity to get some money or make a step or whatever in life, someone approaches them with money saying to vote a certain way, people are going to be swayed by that. So and this is huge, and I really do hope this is the start of something for Moldova. I really do hope so. But right now, I'm not like jumping for joy or anything right now, because it's like I want to see what things happen after I want to give it a couple of days still, because obviously this happened over the weekend, so I want to give it a couple of days still to see more of this. So hopefully I will do a premiere World News Round next weekend, so that I can actually talk about it a bit more there, and there's a more further update on this, because I do think this is something worth talking about, guys. So official data puts yes on 50.46% and no on 49.54% on Monday afternoon, with more than 99.6% of the votes counted. The knife-edge nature of the vote has come as a shock to many. The referendum had been widely expected to comfortably pass in the country of 2.6 million, which borders Romania and Ukraine. The vote was combined with presidential elections in which Mada Sandu, the incumbent pro-EU president, failed to win re-election outright and faces a second round next month. So this is the Moldova EU referendum. The amendments there, you can see 99.7% of the vote, 50.6 to 49.6. The source is from Moldova's Central Electoral Commission. Responding to the referendum results, she said pro-EU forces had won the first battle in a difficult fight, in which she called unjust. She accused those who called Moldova's enemies of criminal groups of trying to buy votes, and said it was a dangerous phenomenon for any democracy. On Sunday, Sandu had denounced the narrow result as a product of foreign interference in Moldovan politics, and said Moldova has suffered an unprecedented assault on democracy. On neither occasion did she refer to Russia explicitly, but in recent weeks, Moldovan authorities uncovered a giant scheme of payments coming from Moscow and paid to people to vote against her and the EU referendum. The Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, said Sandu needs to present evidence for a claim that there has been foreign interference in the vote. EU spokesperson Peter Sandu said on Monday that the vote had taken place under unprecedented interference and intimidation by Russia and its proxies. Last month, Iligan Shaw, a pro-Russian Moldovan businessman and politician who now lives in Russia, said he would have paid more money to convince as many people as possible to vote no or to abstain in the EU referendum. This week, Shaw then made a video statement telling people to vote for anyone but Sandu in the presidential election. And on Sunday, the BBC stumbled upon evidence of a vote buying at a polling station for residents in the breakaway Moldovan region of Transnistria, which is economically, politically and militarily supported by Russia. A BBC producer heard a woman who had just dropped her ballot in the transparent box asked the election monitor where she would get paid. When we asked directly whether she had been offered cash to vote, she admitted it without qualms. She was angry that a man who had sent to her the polling station was no longer answering her calls. He tricked me, she said. So they've been told, if you vote this way, we'll give you lots of money. If you're one of those people who are really struggling, you know what you really should have said. If you are that smart, you know what you would have said. Give me half now and a half after I vote. You can't expect a random stranger to offer you money and say, yeah, I'm going to give you this money, but you have to vote a certain way. Once you vote a certain way, we'll give you that money. It's definitely going to come to you. She would not reply when asked who she had voted for. As well as the referendum changing on the constitution, Moldovans also voted in the country's presidential election on Sunday. The votes were seen as a key test for the country, which is facing a choice between pushing on with EU membership or keeping close ties with Russia. Well, you guys have had close ties with Russia for a long time. How's that worked out for you guys? Sandu topped the election round with 41% of the votes versus her closest opponent, 26%. The result for Alexander Stukuko, who is supported by the pro-Russian Party of Socialists, was considered higher than expected, considerably higher than expected. Sandu will now face a difficult round on the 3rd of November, in which her eliminated rivals, populist Rido Songi and a former Galvidia governor Irene Vard, will likely unite behind the Stontanio. Sorry if I can't pronounce the names, guys. Apologies. She accuses criminal groups of working together with foreign forces using money, lies and propaganda to sway the vote. Sandu also said her government had clear evidence that 300,000 votes were bought, in which she called a fraud of unprecedented scale. Moldova is currently in talks with the EU on becoming a member. Those ascension talks will continue despite Sunday's outcome, as the referendum was not legally binding. The vote, however, was supposed to make the process irreversible. Instead, it feels a little shakier now. Yeah, that's what the Russians wanted to do. So this is Moldova's presidential election percentage of votes per candidate. 99% of votes counted so far. So obviously the next stage on the 3rd of November there. 42.4%, 26.1%. So some interesting numbers there. At Sandu's election headquarters on Sunday evening, the move was extremely subdued, with one of her advisors describing the raw result so far as not what we expected. Sandu, who has cultivated close ties with Moldova's EU neighbours, had campaigned for the yes vote in the referendum. She had previously said that the vote would set up the future of Moldova for many decades ahead. When the first results began trickling in, showed that the no vote had done better than expected. Sandu's team put the disappointing results down to the first counts coming from villages and rural areas. The big count narrowed the lead for the no vote, but by 1 a.m., that's 10 p.m., few thought the yes camp would still get a chance. Many of Sandu's supporters left the headquarters in Chiscu, where they had excuse me, they've been hoping to celebrate her victory before the count was even over. The little EU flags they had been giving to wave were abandoned and chairs and stones on the ground. But as the night went on, the gap narrowed even further. And in the end, yes votes clinched it, but only just. Voter turnout still stood more than 51% when the polls closed at 9 p.m. local time. Several presidential candidates boycotted the referendum. Stukovo said he did not support the idea of changing the constitution, although he added he was a supporter of his country's European aspirations. However, many young people queuing at polling stations on Sunday were vocal about their support for Moldova's future as an EU member state, with some saying that they were voting because they wanted to choose a European future for their country for the sake of the economy and for more opportunities. And that's the thing. It's very interesting because we're watching this and seeing this, the possibility of Moldova potentially joining the European Union, and they're right on the border with Russia, of course. It's very fascinating because the opportunities and the kind of money that can flow into their economy if they join the EU, like the benefits of being a part of the European Union. You know, if you really put the benefits to the people and explain it to them as simply as possible, they really would go for it. It's major opportunities for them. Some said they were fed up of being pulled towards Moscow decades after the Soviet Union collapsed and Moldova became independent. We have to choose a European future for our country, for our children, for our future, for geopolitics, for peace, and most importantly, a voter called Oskana told the BBC, because we are between Europe and Russia influence, we have to choose what we want. And yeah, they're Transnega, yeah. They have to choose in this situation. I would still kind of want to see how things go after a few days. Obviously, the main election obviously is going to be very tight as well. Sandu's got a lot of pressure on her, that's for sure. But it is quite huge this EU referendum, and it's turned out to be a lot tighter than expected. That's for sure. Very fascinating to say the least. I'll heartily say for my vote to be bought would need to be a life-changing amount of money, and I have seriously expensive taste. Morally, my vote is not up for sale. If someone offers you $1 million or £1 million, and they say you vote a certain way and I'll give you this money, I'm gonna say flat out no, because they will not give me that money after I vote, especially if they're a complete stranger. Like, in all seriousness, if you were generally tempted by money, right? Yeah, if you apply common sense, what you would say was, well, you need to give me half of that now, so that I know you're not lying to me. That's what I would say. But they wouldn't do that. Well, I'll say, well, then you're obviously not offering me money. Then you're not offering money. You're claiming to, but you're not offering it. Show me the money, and then I'll consider it. It is essentially bribery in any way, shape, or form. But if a complete stranger offers you money, offer you money if you do something first, you do need to take it with a giant pinch of salt. But you also have to understand that. Try to put yourself in the shoes of Moldovans. And like I said, they're a country that are not doing well for themselves. You know, they've been tied to Russia for a long time. You know, there's big opportunities, like I said, for them. Moldova is a big wind producer, so it can't be too bad, says Steve McMahon. Remember, there are still Russian tanks in Transnistria, and around 100 soldiers last count. Yeah, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to Moldova in terms of things around the things around the Transnistria event. If I'm honest, guys, it's not something I'm as up to date on. For me, I'm more just interested in seeing what this outcome of this vote is and the election itself as well. So, guys, I got one more story for you guys before we hit the funny memes, of course. It's not really a serious... I suppose it is a serious story. I guess it is, or it isn't. I don't know. I'll let you guys decide on this one. It's a very odd story, shall we say, from the usual stories that I cover here on Snowflake Corner. But I wanted to share this one anyway with you guys. Really want to get you guys' thoughts and feedback on this one. This one from Al Jazeera. New Zealand airport imposes 3-minute limit on hugs. Steve, what have you been doing? You've been hugging people for too long. Measures intended to prevent extended embraces from causing traffic jams, but airports won't have a hug police. Max hug time 3 minutes. For fonder farewells, please use the car park. An airport in New Zealand has imposed a 3-minute limit on farewell hugs. The CEO of Dungan Airport, Dan De Bono, said on Tuesday that the new regulation was imposed in September to keep things moving smoothly. The measure is designed to prevent extended embraces leading to traffic jams at provincial transport hubs. A sign recently placed in the area of the airport reserved for dropping off passengers reads, "Max hug time 3 minutes. Those seeking fonder farewells should head for the airport car park instead," it recommends. The restriction has polarized social media users, De Bono said, with pictures of it going viral online. "We were accused of breaching basic human rights, and how dare we limit how long someone can have a hug for," the CEO told the Association Press news agency. He asserted that others had welcomed the change. The limit is intended to be a substitute for measures used at other airports, which warn of wheel clamping or fines for drivers parked in drop-off areas. Some airports in the United Kingdom impose fees for all drop-offs, however brief. And De Bono said Duncan's Airport, a modest terminal serving a city of 135,000 people on New Zealand's South Island, went the quirky route. 3 minutes is plenty of time to pull up, say farewell to your loved ones and move on, he said. The time limit is really a nicer way of saying, get on with it. The CEO said a 20-second hug alone is enough to release the well-being boosting hormones, oxytocin and serotonin. Okay. Anything longer, really awkward, he said. However, the new time limit will not be strictly enforced beyond telling people to move to the car park. "We do not have a hug police," De Bono has said. Okay, serious conversation. What do you guys think? We need to have a serious discussion about this. No worries, Sim. Simon says 55. Thanks for popping by. This is absolutely bonkers. Now, okay, I understand that. I understand the drop off. I understand like some people need to hug and say goodbye and whatnot. Like, is it like? Is this really necessary? Is my question. Is this really necessary, guys? Is this really necessary? No, it's not necessary. I'm sure there are other things that they could do to kind of impose this. And the thing is, there's nobody. And here's the thing, right? There's no. You're not even enforcing it. So just by putting that sign there, are people even going to pay attention to the sign when they are getting their cases and whatnot out, and then they're saying their goodbyes? Like I obviously I'm not somebody who does big long haul travels very often and separates from family and friends. I know some people might have an indifference, but it just feels it feels daft, you know, like maximum hug time 3 minutes. I mean, I just think it's just bonkers. It's absolute bonkers. But there it is, guys. There it is. Typical management bollocks. If they saw the goodbyes around here, they would jail us for all indecent exposure, says Jal. That was written by my colleague here in Wellington. Got a great one around the world. I believe in you. I've dedicated myself a little Funtai war thing. Oh, something else there. We're just two affectionate wee Kiwis. Can't let people go. Nah, you care about each other so much. That's probably it. But yeah, that's the story, guys. Hug limit. No more than 3 minutes. You can hold them for 3 minutes, then you have to let them go. Move along. Move along. Move along. Move along. You've had your hug. Move along, guys. Move along. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Could have done that as a funny video, to be fair, couldn't I? So, guys, I've got 5 funny memes for you guys before we wrap things up. So I actually went this Snowflake's corner went better than I expected. You know, I think sometimes I did 6-7 stories, and I'm sometimes just like really going over the stretch in them. But I think I've done a good pace with this with the videos today anyway. So, but I've got 5 funny memes for you guys before we wrap things up. Hopefully you guys will join me in the chat on Max's live stream. If not, hopefully I'll catch you guys somewhere else, maybe on No Justice. I don't know if you should live streaming later today. Or in the evening, but we'll see. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy these funny memes. I have to do a deep breath to do these right. Okay, here we go. Hello, sir. I will be unable to come back this week due to heavy rain and flood at my home. Can I extend my vacation a few days more? I remember in your resume that you mentioned swimming as your hobby. We'll see you tomorrow at work at 7 a.m. If cats could text you back, they would not. What will cure all your problems? Me. Gift memberships, super chats, buy me coffee, Patreon, all that stuff. When your crush likes the selfie you posted. Local potato happy today. Yes, that is indeed a potato. Let me guess. New year, new you. Could have saved that one to the end of the year, to be fair. But yeah, you're going to hear that. Maybe I should hold on to that one to the end of the year to remind people of that. New year and new you. Is that it? Is that what you're going to say every year? Yeah, it's a new year. Yeah, you're going to get fit again in January. Is that what you're going to do? Going to do a bit of workout, drink some Slim Fast, and then you're going to give up in February. Then realize it was all a waste of time. Yeah, is that what it's going to be in the new year? That's normally what it is, isn't it, guys? That's normally what it is. I would honestly be inside to try to break the limit and tell the police to F off. God. Hi, I'm not stepping on. I was thinking on Friday's live. Were you saying following on from daily pointers suggested for a tile Friday lights for REGANELITE? Yeah, I could do. I might not do it this Friday. Maybe I'll do it the following Friday. I might do it the following Friday. I need to make time to do it. I do have some other stuff I need to chase up. If I do decide to do it, I would need to create like the formats or everything for it as well. If I am do it, but I do like that idea. Friday lights. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good night. It's a good one. But I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to do the exact same thing that Daily is doing. Let me. I just want to copy that. 1 second. I might take that name. If I do it, it won't be this Friday. It'll be next Friday if I decide to do it, guys. And that's a big if. So, yeah. No, it's fine, Stephen. Stephen, really appreciate it. Hunger here often. Hunger here too, Stephen. Yeah. Guys, so I want to say massive thank you guys for all coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. Greatly appreciate it. And for dropping by here today, both whether it's here. And even if you're somebody who's been lurking in the Twitch chat and not commented, thank you guys for popping in there. Greatly appreciated as well. Normally, Snowflake Corners are the quietest live streams of the week anyway. So anybody popping in and checking out the news around the world is also greatly appreciated. I will be back tomorrow evening. No Prime Minister's questions. I'm not covering Deputy Prime Minister's questions, guys. It's just not. I'm not gonna give the time for it, guys. It's just not worth it. But I will be back tomorrow with the Snowflake's Corner at 8 p.m. So do join me for that. And then on Thursday, I will have the Snowflake conflict. We will cover Gaza, Sudan, Myanmar, the war in Ukraine, that kind of stuff on Thursday evening. So do join me for that one, guys, as well. So we'll be covering them there. If you guys want more thoughts and feedback on things going on over in Gaza, do consider joining the Rumble page, the Rumble channel, guys. It's a link for that. It's in the description. I normally do 5 videos a day, Monday to Friday on there. So if you want to check out content there, additional free content on UK news is also available on Patreon. Free. I did say free. You did hear me right as well. So do join me on there as well. There. And do check out the links tree, guys, as well in the description. That's access to all my social medias on there. So if you want to follow me on any other social medias, I have set up a Threads on there as well. At the moment, I'm just posting YouTube Shorts. They're not really getting much traction on there, sadly, but well, I'm going to keep doing it for now and see how it goes anyway. Steve McMahon, thank you so much for the 10 New Zealand dollars, my friend. I hope you have a great day. My friend, I really appreciate the support that you've been giving me. I really appreciate it, buddy. And anybody else, and Martin Brisk, I see you there, buddy. Thank you for your support as well that you've been doing recently as well. I greatly appreciate it. And whether it's financial or non-financial, I really appreciate you guys taking your time out to come and support me and talk about the things that we talk about as well. I've got a dinner waiting for me too, so I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants their dinner. But before I go, guys, we have to see out the gang here. He smiled because thanks to you, Stephen. So Ollie wanted to say thank you for that super chat. So on behalf of the gang there, so the gang want to say take care. Hope they'll be back tomorrow, as I will be. But before I go, I have one last thing to say, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across our social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. If you haven't followed on the Twitch channel, please consider following too. It really does help support both. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here on this, but on both platforms, or on YouTube specifically, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p, or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.